One in Three is intended for mature audiences. Episodes contain explicit content and may be triggering as they often include violence and other varying forms of abuse such as emotional, psychological, sexual, and physical. In most cases, names have been changed to protect all involved. Please note, statements and opinions of guests do not necessarily reflect those of my own. Hi, warriors. Welcome to One in Three. I'm your host, Ingrid. Last week, Angie Smith bravely shared the heartbreaking events that led her to become the powerful advocate she is today. In this episode, we take a deeper dive into Clare's Law, what it is, why it matters, and how Angie worked to strengthen it. She also opens up about the continued support she offers to domestic violence survivors and the tireless advocacy work she carries on every single day. Angie, last week you told a terribly tragic and sad and infuriating story of your daughter and your grandchildren. And you had mentioned Clare's Law in that episode. So today, let's get into what Clare's Law is and then what you've been doing with that since.
Yeah, I'd seen a program on the TV at the time before my daughter was killed, and it was Michael Wood. He was Claire Wood's father, and he bought this, it's a disclosure scheme, and he went through Parliament, and he got the bill, and it was called Clare's Law. So people could, if they was concerned about bringing a new partner into their lives, children's lives, that you could go on this disclosure scheme. It's the right to ask and the right to know. And you put all them details in, and that would come back if there was any previous conviction of domestic violence. I had seen a program about it when Terri first met him, and I downloaded the form. But then when I started to fill it out, realised the information would go to my daughter. And so after my daughter was killed, I sort of thinking about Clare's Law and thinking, we're not saying, anyone could put in for Clare's Law and get disclosure on anybody. But someone who was a really close family member, a mum, a sister. And so we decided to change that little bit of Clare's Law to say that if someone was concerned, as I said, for a mum, sister, that they could put in for this and they'd get the information so they'd at least talk to their daughter to say, this is what I found out on this person. And we did. We campaigned, we got signatures, we had meetings in the government, the UK government, Houses of Parliament. And yeah, I'm pleased to say 2023, yeah, we got that changed. So that was amazing to be able to do that. And it's starting to work really well for some people now, which I don't think it was doing in the, then.
I think that's really important because a lot of times when individuals are in these relationships, and, I can speak from experience of being somebody that was in a relationship like that, you don't want to believe that the person that you love is a bad person. And you may be hearing good advice from everyone around you, but you're not going to believe it yourself. So I think that is such an important piece is for those who are concerned. Yeah.
He was turning it around on us. He just kept saying, well, they don't like me, so, they're not. And I think that's how she was becoming to think, She was dressing differently. She was quite, I'd say, what we call in this, I don't know what you call it, maybe it's the same thing. It's a tomboy, which means you dress quite, she used to like tracksuit trainers. And she was very, very thin little girl. But when she went with him, there was all sorts of different shorts, low-cut tops, and it was, wow, what has happened to you, So there were so many things that he was changing about her, and she didn't even realise it.
And that happens too. You don't realize that you're making these changes because you're just so engrossed in the relationship.
Yeah.
And it's you mentioned a lot of things that you noticed, which is really key because sometimes family members don't notice those things either. So you realized she wasn't communicating as much as she used to, her change in clothes and just becoming a different person. And those are definitely signs that somebody could potentially be in an abusive relationship.
Yeah, definitely. And when she used to come to my house with him, he would never let her go into a room on her own with me. He would follow her every time she moved into another room with me. He'd come into that room because obviously he didn't want her telling me anything.
Right. And then isolating her and making her feel she then couldn't talk to you about anything
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
Were you met with any resistance when you were trying to get Terry's Law passed?
Um, we had a we had a meeting at one point with the local government, and she kept saying, "Oh yeah, Clare's law works, it works," and we were saying it doesn't. It sometimes it doesn't. We need it to go to other family members because that person ain't, if they do it at all, um, they're not going to believe it. They're not going to do that. If you're in an abusive relationship, really 9 times out of 10, you're not going to do that. And so it needs to be like a family member that can do it and at least try to tell them, this is what's happened. And they were saying, oh, it does work. And we said we haven't. We got 10 actual people to do it. And it was different age groups. And they got nothing. No one got anything from it. But as soon as we got that tweaked, and it has now started to work on our website that I currently run, I'm getting people going, we've put in for Clare's Law and it's actually coming back. And so that's got to be, that really humbles me and makes me think, because when I started out this journey, I just thought if I could help one person, if I could save one person. But, I know through my website that I've saved far more than that. So that's only got to be a win-win now.
Absolutely. And I understand how they were saying Clare's Law helps because they do have, numbers of the individuals that it helps. But like you said, there's that piece that's missing. And when you're in the relationship, you're not going to necessarily ask if there's anything. And then even if you got that information, you're going to excuse it away of like, well, that person brought out the worst in
Yeah,
my partner,
yeah,
and I'm not bringing out the worst in my
mm,
partner. You also brought up a very important piece of he was living there. And so if it came in the mail, there was a very high likelihood of
yeah,
him.
he saw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to. I mean, no, not that we knew of that he had convictions for any other thing. I mean, obviously, he was on probation. And there was a lot of failings because he'd had convictions that were locked away in what they call a meta. And no one had told my daughter he had a domestic violence. He had a concern for underage children. That was never told to her, Terry. Never.
Wasn't that part of Clare's Law too? Is that
No, it's totally different.
okay?
It's the National Probation Service. They keep a check on someone's got a criminal record. He was going there every week, and they knew this. They knew they had a domestic violence thing. They knew he had a concern for underage girls under the age of 16. And no one ever told my daughter that. That was kept locked away. She was never given the chance to even say, no, I need to get rid of this person. Never even given the chance.
Right. And I've read books and I've done some research on things, and there are different things called danger assessments to where professionals can review an individual to assess their risk of, you know,
Um, yeah,
harm, or
yeah.
even murder. And I mean, a history of domestic violence, and the things that he was doing, he would have been placed at a.
He was no, he was he was placed a medium risk to the public, when he should have been an high risk to the public, women and children.
Yeah.
Um,
How did they think it was medium?
Someone didn't do their job properly. For one person that just didn't do their job properly, they could have saved her. They'd all still be here now, and that is, you just, you can't comprehend that. You cannot even go to put my head around that. Just if that had happened, yeah, they'd have all still been here.
I mean, I imagine that would be a very difficult thing to keep yourself from doing, is going down all these avenues of what if or only if.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, definitely. What if I didn't have put in the, what if I had put in the Clare's law, I would have known. And it's just like, that's it. You second guess yourself all the time. What if I'd have done this? What if I'd have done that? But at the end of the day, no one could know or even think that someone were capable of that. Nobody.
No, and I've mentioned this before too. Is when you hear something like this, you couldn't even submit it to a movie director,
Mm.
because it seems so unfathomable that another human would do this to
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like it could be real.
No, it doesn't seem real. I mean, as I said, this September it'll be 4 years. We've had to do a lot of things that at the time we couldn't make them decisions, but we had to. You know, um, I couldn't even get my daughter laid to rest because press were going round looking for my daughter's grave, take pictures of it. So I've only just now got her laid to rest. There were so many things. We had a funeral and there were TV cameras there. Um, at one time when we just needed to be able to grieve, we couldn't, right, because you had a TV camera shoved in your face, and that was it. Whole of her funeral went viral, and it was like, what, our actual funeral, we had a police escort. I can remember sitting in the car on the day and thinking, what? We're just a normal family. We're not, we're just average, normal family. My daughter had never been in trouble with the police. She wasn't a drug taker. And when we were in the car that day at a funeral, we're like, what? I don't understand any of this. This is not my world at all. So doing all these things that I've done since, I mean, I couldn't even work. I couldn't work my phone half the time. And I used to actually message my grandson and go, how do I do this? So, this is massive leaps and bounds for me to be able to do all these things now that I do.
Okay, so let's talk more about that. So you got Terry's Law passed, and then you have a website, you have social media, and what do you do with those?
It's called Terri's Fight. Yeah, we started it literally, I think, about a year after she died. I said to her, and because I couldn't do all the social media side, I literally said to one of our friends, I want to keep their name going. They should still be here. And I want to help other people. I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it. And so they set up the website for me. And I send bags out for people that have fled domestic violence. Because some of these women, they come out and they have nothing but the clothes they stand up with. Our bags consist of toiletries. We put a little hug in them. That's called a hug, which is a little bear that's with his arms open, which my auntie makes. Yeah, we put all those things into a bag, airbrush, notebook, pen. And so we've been sending those out to refugees. I think I've done over, that's got to be 290 something now, which is shocking. It is shocking. I mean, we lose in the UK alone, we lose 3 women every year to every week to domestic violence. Our British government have said it's an epidemic here. Half the people you don't hear of that lose their lives, because like my daughter, unfortunately, was the exception. She got killed with her children. Most of these women just die at the hands of a partner, ex-partner, and they don't even get a mention. So yeah, I will carry on doing what I do now. We have a care line so that if anyone is in really immediate danger can ring it. I'm the only person that mans the care line, which a lot of people find unbelievable, but I do. And I talk to women just that are in my sort of situation I was in then. And I give them numbers for refugees, other information they need, or just to talk to them if they need someone to talk to. So, yeah, we have a lot of things going on.
It's amazing. I don't know how you find all the time for that. Do you mind sharing how, if somebody wants to look into some of this information, how they would, like the website or anything like that?
Yeah, it's just a Facebook website. And if you tap into your bar in your Facebook, Terri's Fight, that will come up. Then you can join our website. You can see what we do. Also, if you need any more information, in the UK, we can give you some of the refugees' number. And if you are in, a really dangerous situation, they can help you get out of that.
And I follow your Facebook page, and it's nice because you post little uplifting things in there too, and information, like update news information, and it's quite a helpful page. In closing, is there anything you can think of?
Yeah, if you are in, or you think that you are in an abusive relationship, if someone makes you scared or makes you do things that you don't really want to do, just get help, get out, because nobody wants to be in my place at the moment, because you know what, it does happen.
And
so yeah, just get out. Don't even think about it. Just go run.
right, and if you aren't sure, you can always reach out to different advocacy groups and
Yeah,
explain
of
what's
course.
going
I
on, and they
mean,
can let you know.
obviously, in the UK we have refuge and domestic violence charities, and I'm sure you've got them in America as well.
Yes,
So yeah, just ask for help.
absolutely. And then, what would you like listeners to remember about Terri, John, Lacey?
They were an average family. They had big hearts. My grandchildren used to raise money for cancer research. They were just I wouldn't say perfect little family, but they were just this little average family that loved life, loved doing things. So yeah, I'm sure you can remember Terri, because there's been quite a lot of bad press sometimes with Terri saying, she should have known, and she wouldn't have. She wouldn't have put her children at risk. No way would she have. So they were just a happy little family.
Okay. Well, thank you, Angie, so much for your time. And
Thank you.
I know it's difficult telling this over and over again, but I really appreciate it. I think it will be extremely helpful for listeners all over the world. And then for those in the UK that have you as a potential resource as well.
That's okay. As I said, anything I can do to help, I'm happy to do it.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angie, for joining me today and for all of your tireless work. And thank all of you for listening. I've included the link to Angie's 1 in 3 profile in the show notes. Please take a look at it, as it includes an Amazon link to help purchase items for the Terri's Fight Bags. I will be back next week with another episode for you. Until then, stay strong, and wherever you are in your journey, always remember, you are not alone. Find more information, register as a guest, or leave a review by going to the website 1in3podcast.com. That's the number 1, I-N, the number 3, podcast.com. Follow 1 in 3 on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at 1in3podcast. To help me out, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. 1 in 3 is a .5 Pinoy production. Music written and performed by Tim Crow.